What's up, buddy?
Hey, brother. I'm doing well.
Appreciate the time yesterday and all the birthday wishes.
Yeah. I hope
Yeah,
my birthday video was made you laugh.
it did. Yeah, you called me sexy. I was like, he's freaking right. I am sexy. I look pretty good for 47, right?
I don't know what you're doing, bro, but keep
Being
doing
a
it. You're doing
drug
good.
addict for many years, I'm pretty proud of myself. I look okay at this age, right? So this is the third chance podcast. We are at episode 21. We have
21,
mics
baby.
now.
Yep. We're
I
legit.
have like a real mixer and recorder, right? We've come a long ways, buddy, in 21 weeks.
I know. Stepping it
So
up high level.
I am Chad Lubin. I always say former cocaine addict, but I shouldn't say former because you can always slip back into that old life if you're not. Any addict knows that they're just a day away from and a couple bad decisions away from going back to that life. So I always say I'm a cocaine addict that's been clean for 14 years. This is called the third chance because I've been given three chances at life. I sold and did a lot of drugs as a teenager, got through all of that, but then I got busted coming out of college trying to do the same again. That was a chance. And then I hit rock bottom with my addiction January, 18th, 2010. I attempted to take up my life through overdosing on cocaine. Luckily, three things came into my life right at that time. Right at that moment, Christ came into my life. Through I was either really high or my bulldog started crying and whimpering and talking to me. So I like to think for the story, Lisa, it was God interjecting, but I might have just been on some really good stuff and hallucinating. So either
I
way,
get
God
it.
spoke to me. I stopped. I flushed the drugs away. I went and got help. Came to my knees, committed to Him. Found NA, found some fellowship, got into fitness, and kept my faith. And here we are 14 years later, and rock bottom is I've climbed the mountain. So that's why we call it third chance. What's your story, Drago?
Hey, Jeff Dragovich, opioid addict. I'm coming up on 6 years this year,
Wow.
September 18th, baby. Let's
September
go.
18th.
September
Nice.
18th. Let's go. Yeah. So horrible drug addict for a long, long time. Almost killed myself in front of my kids. Stole a shit ton of money from people. Was a very bad husband, very bad friend, very bad leader, but we figured it out. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
We did. We did. How about you, Lisa?
Um, my name's Lisa, and my former drug of choice was meth always. But I would literally do anything that you put in front of me, so it didn't really matter what it was. I never got down with the opiates, those because I just don't like the down feeling, and I was always afraid I was going to get sick. So I'm much an upper type of a lady. But I stopped using meth. Um, I'll say that because I'll probably touch on later little, changes. November 4th, 2007. So I haven't, so 17 years since I've used that. With that being said, I am not in the program. I'm not working like a program. I'm not in recovery at this time. I did go through the program. So I don't want to make it seem like I don't have a drink or, whatever,
Yeah.
just drink because I don't do any drugs, anything at all. But I don't want to come under false pretenses that I am like totally sober because I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah. And everyone has their own form of recovery. I can drink very responsibly. I do drink. I haven't had to put everything aside. I know some people have to
Hmm.
go really hardcore straight edge, like can't have caffeine, can't have anything.
Yeah.
I probably should do that because I'm like you. I didn't like the slow drugs. I didn't smoke weed.
Hmm.
I didn't like the opioids. I like to go fast. So I never had any problems. And I still like to drink a lot of coffee. Right.
Yeah.
Drank some coffee before this. So I still get my fix of energy just in better places than I used to.
Yeah, for sure.
So talk to me a little bit about your and Jeff's relationship because we had a long conversation last night and he was telling me a lot of things about your guys' relationship. So I want to hear your side of it.
Um, So I moved to Fountain Valley from Costa Mesa, which is like just the town over. So it's not like crazy.
Like 5 miles. It's like 5
This is
Yeah.
miles.
California, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I switched schools my junior year, and I found Jeff. I'm pretty sure pretty early on. I think we started talking.
Yeah.
And I have always been like a friend hopper because I feel like people's energies like burn me out really fast. So I never like burn out my friendships, but I will go from like one group of friends to another group of friends. And then when I can't handle their energy. And so Jeff was Jeff, and he was definitely like one of my best friends. We became really close, really, really fast, connected on a lot of different levels. And in high school, it was, fine. We have a lot of like weird stories from high school, but nothing crazy. I feel like high school for you, I went crazy, but I feel like you and I didn't like get into drugs or anything
until
in high
we were
school.
old. Yeah, until we were older.
Together, but I did 100%. I was a raver in the 90s, so I did like a lot of ecstasy, a lot of acid, a lot of ecstasy and acid together, and a lot of other drugs. So, but Jeff and I didn't have that relationship until like in our early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that how you remember it a little bit?
Yeah.
Well, I want to know
for
about
sure.
Jeff's energy. Did he burn you out? Because I mean, his energy is a lot, right? Was he one of those friends that you had to get away from his energy?
I think everybody. Well, yes, Jeff is a lot, but
yes,
but
I was
he
waiting.
is. Yeah, no, he is for sure. But it was more. Yeah, I don't know, because Jeff just already had like an established group of friends, and then I hung out with like the ravers, and Jeff didn't go to raves or anything like that. So it just kind of depended on where we were. But Jeff was a lot. He is always a lot, and he
Still is a lot.
he is a very special person.
Yeah, that's what we call him special too. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
talk a little
Appreciate
bit
that.
about like because I was a lot like that too. And cocaine was my rock bottom. Like I did acid in high school. I did, I did a lot of ecstasy as I came into college. Like that was never an addiction. And yeah, I shouldn't have done it, but I had some great times on it. It was a lot of fun. I ain't gonna say it was fun.
I say it all the time that it was some of the best times of my life. So I'm not gonna lie, going to raves and ecstasy and acid, and I never craved it in a way that I felt like it was never an addiction for me. But in addition to those things, I was also smoking meth and doing coke and doing all of the things. So there was other things
I had to
going on.
transition into that, right? And I know people say like, oh, gateway drugs are stupid. I'm like, bullshit. Like, there's no way I got into cocaine if I didn't smoke a little weed, have acid. There's no way I went from not doing any of that stuff to like being a cocaine addict. There's no way.
Totally.
Right?
No, I 100% agree. I started smoking pot when I was 12. So on July 7th, 1994, I believe. And so I started smoking pot when I was 12. So I was always very open to it. But I have sexual trauma from my childhood that I feel like I was always dealing with. Even though I wouldn't admit it. So that's kind of what just opened that door to me. And I think I was always it was something that I couldn't talk about. So it was always something that I was trying to fix. And I specifically turned to drugs to fix it. And I felt like I was a better version of myself. I felt like I was a better version of myself when I was high in any sort of capacity. So when I finally did get sober and I was working the steps, I realized there wasn't a time from the time I was 12 to the time I was 25 when I got sober that I was not high or drunk or something every single day.
Wow.
So it was a long ride for me.
Extreme use.
Yeah.
And what was was it all of it or was it just the meth?
So in high school, it was obviously it started as pot, and I went hard on the pot. Like I was a super freaking stoner. Like I
Oh
smoked
yeah.
all the time. My best
Well,
friend
you were
and
trying
I
to numb
growing up,
yourself from your trauma and you were just too
for
young to know
sure,
how to deal with it, right?
Oh
for
yeah.
sure, for
Hey,
sure.
the only person I ever learned how to smoke weed in your house and not get caught was with Lisa. Remember, we were in your bedroom and you like made this
Yes,
like little thing with the dryer thing and you blew through it. I'm
yes,
like, what are we doing right now? Your
yeah,
parents are gonna come and she's like, don't worry, I got this.
yeah. So pot for sure. And then when I became a junior is when I started partying, when going to raves and stuff. And then that kind of opened the door for meth, ketamine, stuff like that. And
When did
so
the meth
I
start?
junior year of high school.
It did.
Yeah, and I was doing I would smoke meth and snort coke like on a regular basis.
So
Like so
this
that
is
was
in high school.
so this was in high school. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so and it's funny because like I was raised in a super normal, non-addictive family. My sister struggled for sure. But my parents like they didn't drink. They didn't like it was super normal. And the sexual trauma that I experienced was outside of my home. It had nothing to do with my family. So I always felt
Yeah.
really safe and secure.
Yeah.
But I also felt a lot of shame that I wasn't able to like go and talk to my parents about it until
Right.
later. And so through all the work that I've done, I've like realized all of this in hindsight, but
Yeah.
so I always had an anchor. So even though I was definitely off the rails, I wouldn't go too far because I didn't want to disappoint my parents.
Yeah.
And so I was still able to maintain, but I'm talking like, and when I say that I would do stuff at school, like I'm talking like I would snort coke in class. I
Mm.
Yeah,
would,
I remember. I remember
yeah,
like Lisa was like wild, but she was like, whoa, like that for me, I was like, whoa, shit, what the fuck's going on here? Like, but like she was super cool, but she was like super wild. You're like, what the fuck is
yeah,
going on here? I've never seen
yeah.
anybody do that before. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it was like blatant, like in class. Like I didn't hide it and I have zero idea why. Well, I know now because I am a Christian. I do believe it was God looking out for me. I don't think God's going to protect me from stupid things like that. But I
Yeah.
do think that God had a bigger plan for me. And this is part of my story was not to endure getting caught and all of that stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not trying to justify it, but
Right.
I remember grad night specifically, I was like underneath the tables at school, like smoking meth, like legit on campus all the time. So like I was
Yeah.
like wild, wild.
Yeah.
Um, and then when we graduated high school, I decided I was not gonna. I went on this trip to Mexico with my sister, who also had issues from her past and has like prior addictions and stuff. And we went and we had this like last hurrah and like just got like so messed up. And then came back and like didn't do anything, but I was still drinking and smoking pot. I just wasn't doing hard drugs, and then ended up getting a DUI. And Jeff had to come pick me up from my best friend's house. They didn't arrest me, but I did get my license suspended for a year. They drove me in my car to my best friend's house, my best girlfriend who I grew up with, her house, dropped me off there. She was throwing up and I was afraid of people throwing up. So I didn't want to be in the house with her. She was throwing up. And so I called Jeff to come get me. So that was one of the many times where we saved each other and
Yeah.
like, in those moments. So
So
Jeff came and
let's,
picked me up.
yeah, keep
Go ahead.
going. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So Jeff came and picked me up and we drove around that night and then, he dropped me off at home. And so I would go in and out and then I stopped using for a couple years. And I don't even know if it's a couple years, but I would definitely not use consistently. And then in my 20s, it really picked up again.
So let's talk about the math because that has torn apart my hometown where I grew up, and
Mm-hmm.
I lost my sister to it. I've lost a lot of friends to it. It's decimated my old community in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the worst drug out there. I've seen it ruin so many lives. I think fentanyl is
Sure.
quickly approaching that. But I'm from the Midwest. I grew up in Iowa originally, and I've just seen it go into, good small town Iowa values and decimate the community, right? Especially
Mm-hmm.
like more rural areas. So talk about how that impacted your life, maybe any side effects you've had from it. What made you start who was the group of people you're hanging out around with? Because a lot of the people that watch this too, Lisa, are have kids. Like, you know, my kids'
Mhm.
age is our twin 9-year-olds and a 4-year-old. So these are things as an addict I'm starting to think about of what do I
Totally.
have to prep my kids for, because I'm not the parent that turns a blind eye. And I believe, you know, that why God didn't intervene with you is because you are most qualified to help the person you used to be. And I believe
Mhm.
you're in your job that you are now to look out for. You know, we started before this. We're like, oh wow, we were way worse than the kids these days. But
Yeah.
the kids these days might be better at hiding it than we
Yeah.
were. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
talk about the math a little bit, and you, I believe you went through that because now you are most qualified to help the person you used to be, right?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about how the transition from the weed and the drinking to boom, meth, right?
Yeah.
We'll
It
start
was
to let them know, like Huntington Beach, like yeah, we grew up in Orange County in a affluent area, but like we're our city where we grew up, meth decimated our city too. You know what I'm saying, right? It
yeah.
was gnarly there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had seen it. What's scary is I had watched my sister struggle with her addiction with meth for years before. And I would always tell myself I would never do that. I would never be that person. And because it was really, really hard on my family. And it was like the transition wasn't that crazy. Like it just was like, sure, like let's do it, you know? And I think what you said about like gateway drugs, I think it's interesting. My husband and I talk about it all the time, is that like pot is for sure a gateway drug because it just gives you that permission to like push it a little bit further, or like, oh, I can just try this or whatever. And you, because pot is like not that bad, you don't think that the next thing's going to be that bad. And
Oh, that's a good
so I
point.
and so I think that when I started going to raves and then like did acid for the first time, in my mind, like I think about hallucinogenics now and I don't think that they're that bad, but compared to everything else that I did.
Yeah.
Um, but I also think they're therapeutic in a way if used in the
Mhm.
right environment. Like, so there's a
Absolutely.
lot that I agree with that, but
For sure.
it, in my mind as a stupid 16-year-old, it gave me permission to push the limits elsewhere. And it was not in a controlled environment, it was in a super unsafe environment, and I was just like there for the ride. And so it was very easy for me to go from smoking pot to doing acid and ecstasy to snorting ketamine from a stranger at a party and not caring, and then also just smoking meth on the, every single day, and snorting coke. Like I was doing all of it at the same time. There was no in between. There was no like I did this for this period of time and this for that period of time. I was doing all of it. Everything you had, give it to me. I want it all.
Yeah.
Wow,
Wow.
that's so interesting. Like, because I kind of feel the same way. Like, I didn't know, like, with my drug use too. Like my parents, hippie parents, they smoked pot all the time, and I always go back to like, well, it was like just acceptable. But I do agree with you on that one. Like, you start these drugs, and it's just if you're willing to take it farther, like you're just okay with it, right? Because this
Yeah.
was okay. So why don't I try that? Like, let's experiment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and
Like,
I was extremely depressed and extremely unhappy in high school because, again, I was dealing with this trauma that was super unresolved, and it was very still much in my face. I was still interacting with this person on a daily basis. And so it was, uh, it affected me. So like, I just didn't care. I didn't care about the things that I should care about because I didn't know how to express myself. I was not okay mentally at the time.
So would you say, knowing what you know now, like I've been through a lot of therapy from my trauma.
Hmm.
And I know I have tools now to deal with
Hmm.
the feelings, the emotions, sometimes the dreams that came from that trauma. I hear so many parents like, oh, my kid's too young for therapy. I'm like, no, they're not. That's when they need it.
No. Yeah, I think when I was kind of forced into telling my parents, because I was in an abusive relationship, and I trusted him because it was the best relationship I had ever been in. And I told him my whole life because I thought he was going to be the person I spent the rest of my life with. And he basically used it against me in his manipulation and his abusiveness, and basically was like, I'm going to tell everybody unless, like, I don't believe you. And so I knew he was going to tell my parents, and I didn't want them to hear it from him. I wanted them to hear it from me. So anyways, through that, once I was able to talk about it, I never shut up about it. I felt like it was such a big power for me to take control of that. And then I'm going to be honest, like, the program really is what set it in stone for me, where I was like, this does not have power over me anymore. I forgive him. I forgive me. I release any shame that I have from it. But you have to get to a point where the kid or the person can talk about it. If they can't talk about it, it festers. And everybody deals with their trauma different, but like, you have to be able to at least talk about it a little bit and forgive yourself for stuff that you had no control over,
Right.
or, or stuff that you did, bad stuff that you did, and give yourself permission to say, I fucked up. I made a lot of mistakes, and, or this had nothing to do with me. I just was the victim in this case, but I'm not going to be a victim anymore. I'm not going to let it have power over me.
Wow. Good.
Right.
Good for you. Do you, with London, like, does she know your story? Like, have you been open with her about?
She knows everything.
Good.
She doesn't know like super detail, but she knows the trauma. She knows all of the drugs that we've done. She knows all of my stories. It was really funny. I've never felt so judged in my life, where she was like, asked me what kind of drugs I did, and I told her meth, and she goes, meth. And I was like, oh my God, don't say it like that. You're making me feel really
London's your daughter?
right now.
Yeah, London's your daughter. Yeah.
She's going to
How
be
old's
16
London?
she'll be 16 on Friday.
Awesome. So you definitely have to, I love that you said that, because Jeff and I have been, part of this is coaching parents, and like, there's no way anybody knew what I was doing in high school, right? Sounds like you were very open about it. Like, I hit it at least a little bit, Lisa. Geez, at least I hit it. But I excelled in sports. I got good grades. I got in a lot of fights, but besides that, you probably wouldn't have known much, and then
Totally.
I started getting in a little trouble with the law, but, there's no way people thought like, oh, he's doing coke and ecstasy and right. No way. And then in college, same, like, I graduated double major 3.6, and I excelled at a lot of things. And so there's no way anyone would have looked at me and said, oh, he's a problem. He has a drug issue, but I did. Right.
Yeah.
And a big one. So I'm hearing from you, be vulnerable and open with your kids, right? Because that trust to them brings brings their trust back. If I'm open and honest with my children, I feel like I'm going to get the same back.
Totally. 100%. And I knew from the beginning that I was going to be open with her, because that is the one thing that I feel like led me down this path. Is my parents are great parents, but they've done so many things right, but they never gave me that open door to where I felt comfortable, or that I felt like, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I just didn't feel that from them. And I knew that I always wanted her to be able to come to me for anything that she had. And she is so much better and stronger and level-headed than I ever was, or her dad ever was. So like, we are so blessed. And God gave us the perfect child to like heal us.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we said, get therapy, get help, and don't assume that your kid doesn't need help, right?
Correct.
Second thing Lisa said is she believes what I believe. If you see sign is lashing out. Like my signs would have been like, oh my God, he's beating kids up and getting in fights and constantly aggressive, right? Well, that was because of the trauma that I went through, and I didn't know how to deal with it. Right. And I didn't like it started with pot with me, but I didn't like those feelings that I felt smoking weed. I did when things started speeding up, because it's like, oh, I can just go have fun and forget it and be aggressive. Right. So that's why I coke, and I tried some meth. I didn't get addicted to it like I did cocaine. Right. So the second thing is like, yes, start your kids early. If you see some behavioral issues, it is okay to go to therapy. Therapy is a good thing. Talking about it is a good thing. Having tools to deal with emotions are a good thing. It took me till probably 36 years old before I developed the tools because I didn't get them at a younger age, right? And
Yeah.
I could have. And also our parents come from, I call it the shame generation, or
Totally.
we're just going to
Yeah.
suppress everything and not talk about it and hide everything, right?
Yep.
Well, guess what? You can't, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
So
I think that's
I
like,
also heard from you then, and I'll let Jeff go. I also heard from you, like, therapy is a good thing, and please don't take this as weed is a bad thing and ketamine's a bad thing to get treatment with. I know a lot of alcoholics that have taken psychedelics for their therapy, right? But
Yeah.
Lisa said it earlier, in a controlled environment. She said,
Yeah.
I was doing this in an uncontrolled environment. That's what's dangerous. So we're not saying, hey, ketamine's a bad thing. MDMA, if you have some psychological issues, get with the psychologist and deal with it with them in a controlled environment.
Totally.
These
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
can help you. So I totally believe in that sort of therapy because I've seen so much success in it. Go ahead, Drago.
Yeah.
So what I was gonna say, because I connect with Lisa, like I like being open and honest, like, and me and Chad, we've done a lot of podcasts and we've talked to people because we have daughters too, like that are younger, and you know, I have teenagers too, same age as your daughter. And so being open and honest, but like I've kind of felt the same way, like with my parents, like we didn't talk about that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want that for my kids. I want them to be open and honest. So like just starting that path and just like letting them know my story and letting them ask questions, I feel like that puts me in a better situation that they will come to me. Because like my wife is my kids go to, but hey, sometimes they come talk to dad and they ask dad questions, and I feel good about that. Like my son came to me the other day and was asking me a question about situation with this girl, and I was like, hell yeah, dude, all right, let's go. You know, but I feel like the reason he was coming to me is because I've been open and honest with him about like expressing, come talk to me, because I love my parents, we did everything, my mom did the best that she could, but we just didn't talk to them like that. I wasn't going to go to my mom. Like I didn't tell my mom I was a drug addict until I was like rock bottom and owed some dude $20,000 because I was taking 60 Norco a day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
Wow. So talk about your guys' relationship a little bit, and when you guys used together and how it made you drift apart, and how you came back together as friends.
Well, we always had she just has always been a special person to me, and she's always been in my life. We would go on spurts where we didn't talk for many, many years. I mean, as high school, like during high school, after high school, we kind of lost touch for a little bit. Then we would reconnect. I mean, we lived with each other. How much, like, would we live with each other for a couple of years, right?
Yeah. I mean, I lived there for 6 years, and I think 3 of them was without you. So the first 3 with you.
Yeah. And I was like I was like in a relationship, and I was like super heavy into like the Oxycontin and stealing shit. And you know, at this time she was getting sober, and she's like, you're a dumbass. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't need no freaking AA. You know what I'm saying? And then like, I probably wasn't the best friend. And I manipulated myself, and I took something special to her, like a computer. I don't even know what I did with it. Right.
So
That had a
I'm
bunch of
pretty sure
pictures
you
on it.
traded it.
Yeah. And for sure. I'm pretty sure that's what I did. And, and then we didn't talk for
Years.
5, 6 years, 7 years.
Yeah. Well, and I think the biggest.
Hold on, I want to go a little deeper on this. So Jeff, you're coming out of your behavior and trying to get clean. He's in the storm of his addiction.
Oh,
right?
as bad as it could be.
And it was 2 worlds colliding, right? You're trying to get on with your life. He is at the pits of his addiction, and he's stealing from you and selling things, like, because this is what addicts do. And I've been there before, by the way, too. When I was an addict and I needed, I was stealing and I was manipulating people, and sometimes just taking it from them by force because I could. Right. So this is what happened. Talk a little bit about that, Lisa, and how it made you feel, and what our boy was doing at his rock bottom.
Well, I mean, and I think, okay, so I had moved in. I was probably, by the time I moved in with him, I think I was at like 8 or 9 months.
Yeah. I think almost coming up on a year. I remember.
Yeah. Cause I think it was like in August or something that I moved in. And, so I was totally like doing good and I was totally on fire. I was all super AA. It was freaking awesome. And I moved to Anaheim to get away from like what I knew. Jeff had this guest house in the back. And so it was like the perfect solution. I was with Jeff. He was always a solid friend of mine, and his brother lived there too. And it was great. Um, my husband, got out of prison. And when he got out of prison, he came and stayed with us, or with me, in the back house. And then a month later I found out I was pregnant with little London.
Yep.
And so it was really hard. And Devin was like, I don't know how am I supposed to be a dad? Like, I just got out of prison. Like, there's just no way. And so the thing that killed me the most with Devin, or with Jeff and I, is that he started using with Devin when I was pregnant.
Yeah.
And that's what betrayed me the most, because I'm like, and look, and I'm not a saint. I made really, really horrific choices as an addict. And like, I mean, I stole things that like I cannot even like I comprehend. But like, so the laptop, yes, it had pictures on it, and I totally, super big bummer, like, and really pissed, like, really, you're gonna steal from me? But I think it was him using with Devin. Did Devin have a choice in it? Yeah, Devin made the same choice. So Devin has just as much responsibility, but I just felt such a betrayal from him. Like, really, you're gonna take this guy who we know is struggling, and you're gonna that's the guy that you choose to use with. And that was kind of it for me. And so once I had it out with Devin, that really severed mine and Jeff's relationship. And
for years and years and years.
And just because I was just trying to like pull it together. Like, I was just freshly sober, like, like I'm still within like I think I was just over a year at that point. And it was just, I don't know, I just didn't think it. And I mean, and look, and Jeff liked to keep secrets. Jeff was a little bit of a compulsive liar, and he would lie about shit that you were just like, why are you even lying about this? But he just couldn't help himself. Like, he would just lie and or embellish, or he would always, that was Jeff.
Yeah, me too. When I was an addict,
it was wild. And to me, I'm just habitually honest. Like, and I think that's why people knew that I was always using, because like, I just can't not be honest. And I think that's what killed me about my trauma, was that I couldn't be honest about the one thing that I wanted to be honest about. So anyways, but with Jeff, that is what ended it. That's what killed it for me, is because I was just like, I trusted you and I just can't be a part of it. And it's kind of a little bit of a tough love thing, where it's like, dude, you're freaking off the rails right now, and I'm on a different path, and this is not healthy for us.
Yeah.
And so shit went down with him, and he ended up having to leave his grandpa's house. I'm not even fully sure what happened, but I ended up moving into the front house, and my sister moved into the back house. Super awkward, because I still rented that place from his grandpa for years after him and I stopped talking.
Out. His grandpa kicked Drago out.
Yeah.
So hold on a second though. I want to make a point, right? Because like, Jeff is one of the most, I only know sober Jeff. I don't know addict, right? And Drago only knows sober Chad, not addict dickhead Chad, right? Good people do horrible things on drugs, because he is genuinely the best guy I know, the most generous, would tear his shirt off of his own back for anybody. I've seen him help people on the streets just walking by. I hear his words every day. Genuinely the best guy I know, right? And it does not freaking matter when your only craving and your need in life is to get high again. You will do anything for anybody, lie, manipulate, steal, beat up, take, rob. You will do anything to get what your addiction is.
Case in point with Devin, that's her husband. Like, so like, I'm just like trying to figure this out.
I can't believe you're such a dick, Drago. I don't know if
such a dick support
with you,
but it's the truth. Like, I manipulated Devin to come use with me so I could get what I wanted, so I could get high. Didn't think about anything else, or the repercussions, or who was it going to hurt, or whatever. It's just like, yo, it's go time. Let's go, bro. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And that's not cool.
Well,
Wow.
because I would go to work and they would just be home all day together, like,
Yeah.
and you know, and then all of a sudden, like Devin wouldn't come back to the guest house, and they would just be like, he'd come back at like 6 in the morning, and I'm not an idiot. I've been through that, and so I knew the signs, and I knew hiding places, so I knew where to look to see if they were storing shit, and sure enough, I was able to find. And the thing is, and I think what tripped me out is like not even Devin's drug of choice. So I was like, are you freaking kidding me right now?
Yeah.
You guys are like way far out. And I'm like, I wasn't happy about any of that. But I agree. And this is why, even though Jeff was a little bit of an embellisher and a little bit of a compulsive liar, Jeff has always been one of the best, most genuine people to me. And I know that's kind of contradictory sometimes, but like,
Yeah.
Jeff, I asked him to marry Devin and I. Like, he officiated our wedding even after years of not really talking, because that is how much he means to me, regardless of that. And I made poor decisions. So I'm never going to hold somebody at the height of their addiction to the decisions they make, because it's not you. You're a different person.
Yeah.
And I know who he is, and I know the work he's put in, and I'm super proud of him. And so, and I know me, I would be so sad if people held me to those same standards. And I, you know, like I was a real shit person, and I have made decisions, and I'm not that person. Like I can't even, like, that person is so far in the past for me that it's very hard for me to even like reconcile that I did those things.
Yeah. It's like another lifetime ago, right? Like
100%.
yeah.
So talk about the reconciliation. How did that happen? How did you guys reconnect again? Was it just his amazing skills as an ordained minister?
Well, we reconnected before that. I had to like, I mean, and at that time too, like I wasn't really sober. Like I was trying to figure it out. Like I wasn't using, like for me, I literally had to leave the state of California. I moved to Colorado, where I had like 4 family members to figure it out, and that was working. And then I you know, was like, I'm like, dude, I gotta get back with Lisa on like being buddies. And I think we didn't even reconnect. Like London was like 4 or 5 years old, right? Like when we met for sushi, and I made my amends with you, and everything's been cool from there.
Yeah.
So your
And
guys' story.
I was never going to hold it against him forever.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like at that time, like I am pregnant. I just needed to like not have that in my life at that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your guys' story fits everything we say, right? Like, I think you can be, I'm friends with some people that I used to use with, but they got their life, right? We needed our space. When I first went through getting sober, I had to separate myself from anybody that used, because I knew I wasn't strong enough until I worked the program to be around or have any temptations or impulses to use. So I was just this, right? But slowly, as the people that I used to use with, guess what I found out? As soon as I stopped, they could stop, because I was the leader in it. I was the one pushing it.
Yeah.
A lot of people gravitated towards me because of life of the party, or always having the supply, or always, let's go do this, and you know, let's go out to the rave or the clubs, and here's the ecstasy, and let's go to this concert, and whatever it is, right? Like I was the one leading it. So I think it's so important that just because you have to get away from people for a while to get yourself right doesn't mean you can't come back to them. And
totally
testament to that.
Yeah. I agree 100%.
Man, I can't believe how much of a dick you were, Jeff.
I
hope we don't. We better not have any of my used to be friends that are now friends again, because they got stories for me too.
Hopefully my wife's not watching either, because she'll say I'm a dick still.
But this is part of our journey, right? Is admitting. And I love, because I'm reading so much about the disciples in the Bible right now, and Jesus didn't hang out with all the elites. He hung out with knuckleheads like the 3 of us, right? And
totally
went out in the world and spread his gospel and spread his word. And that's why we do this is, hey, no judgment. We've all been there. And there's no better person to help than the person who used to be what you're going through, right? And we're all here to support that. We're all here to get you help, point you to the resources that we have, be a an ear to bend, listen, whether it's been trauma that you've went through, whether you're having thoughts of suicide, whether you have a pornography addiction, a cocaine addiction, an opioid addiction, a meth addiction. There is no judgment from any of us. You DM us if you're struggling or know someone struggling. I might not have all the answers. Jeff might not have all the answers. I'm sure Lisa is willing to help and listen too. We might not have the answers, but I have a ton of resources that do. Jeff has a ton of connections in programs and different treatment centers and things that we know work for people. We've already impacted 5 or 6 people's lives. I got a very nice thank you card for my birthday from someone that says our conversation stopped him from killing himself. I've been through that myself. I had my weak moment. I had my attempt at taking my life. So no, we are here to support that. That's why we're doing this. There is never any judgment. There is never, we will never give up to you. I'm a friend you want because I don't shy away when things get tough. I lean in and I lean in.
Yeah,
close.
we lean in for sure. We do this because this fills our cup up.
Several friends that are going through it right now, and they will all tell you the same thing. I don't get further away. I lean in closer. So no, we are all here to lean in close. I'll let you two take us out. Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts, Lisa. Thank you so much for coming on. I love you so much. I appreciate you sharing your testimony. If this could help anybody, you know what I'm saying? Like, we do this because it fills our cup up. I'm not trying to be podcast famous. I don't really care. I would rather take your call at 3 o'clock in the morning than have to go to your funeral. So if you're thinking about getting sober, you're thinking, or you just need somebody to talk to, you need a hug, I got you. This is why we do this. I appreciate it, everybody that's out here listening, on the intraweb. Every podcast, I put my information and Chad's information at the bottom. We're literally always available. But again, we do this because we want to help. I love you, Lisa. Thank you for giving us your time today. We've been on a long ride together for sure.
A long ride, yeah.
A long ride. Yeah. Lifelong friendship.
Yes, for sure.
So any final thoughts you want to leave us with, Lisa?
Just thank you so much for having me. I enjoy talking about myself. I enjoy sharing my story, and I hope that it can help anybody. I know that I literally was at like the darkest places in my life. I did things that I never in my life thought that I would do. And I came out of it. And like I said, you can turn your life around to a point where you will never recognize that person again. Like, it is possible, and you can leave it with no like effects. And even if you do have effects from your past, like, you can work through those and figure out how to live a really healthy and sane life. And I think that it's possible for anyone, especially with God on your side.
Amen, sister. Well, it was awesome to meet you, Lisa. I look forward
to
getting to know you better. Drago, I love you. Thank you for all the birthday love. I'm glad you're not such a dick anymore. Otherwise, we wouldn't be friends. And we'll have to have someone on in the future to tell you a little bit about me and the dick I was in my lowest point. So
can't wait.
If you find value in this, please share. We're on Spotify. We're on all the podcast channels. If you think this could help somebody, or you know someone struggling, DM us. I'm happy to reach out and call them. I've been told to F off. I've been told none of your business, but I don't quit, and I will keep loving on them, and I will keep dripping on them to make sure that they're getting the help they need. And some people want it and some people don't. But if you know anyone that's struggling with any form of addiction, that's having mental health issues, that's having drug addiction, or you're a parent that wants to avoid this and wants to have a conversation with us, DM us, call us. We always leave our phone numbers in the comments, and please share this episode if you know someone that this could impact.
Yeah, we're on all streaming platforms. Send this, download it, let us know. We're always available. Love you guys.
Love you back. Thank you, guys.